Spoken Labour. I haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Catalan 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy N's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken Label. Hi, it's Andy N from Spoken Label. Thank you today for streaming or downloading another episode of Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up on beginning of 2016 and as of speaking has currently nearly 300 sessions. The full archive is available on Spoken Label bandcamp.com. Although it is available for free for stream and download if you wish, I am always grateful for any sort of kind of donation to enable me to keep the running costs of this podcast going. And enjoy. Take care. Bye bye. Spoken Label.
Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, Sunday afternoon. Yes, lovely peaceful day today. This is my actual last Spoken Label session for a month. Still be releasing everything, but I'm taking a wonderful break in August. To help me celebrate that fact, I've got a wonderful lady with me today who I met. She's read at Speakeasy I think it's twice now. We've got around again coming up soon as well. Wonderful writer, Jos Somerset. Now, Joe, for people that don't know you, tell people a little bit about yourself first of all. Because I know from talking to you previously, you're originally from the Birmingham area, aren't you? So, which I can't hear it in your accent, I'll be honest with you. But tell us about your creativity, where it all came from originally.
Sure, yeah. I grew up in Birmingham till I was 18, and to be honest, got out of there as soon as I could. And moved to Manchester, which just felt much more like my natural cultural home, really. And interestingly, my dad was from Manchester, but he got out. He got out from here as soon as he could. So I don't know. There's a pattern there. But anyway, there you go. But while I was in Birmingham, as a young teenager, I kind of got going with my writing by writing awful, moody, lonely poetry.
Teenage stuff, yeah.
Cigarette and all that sort of thing. So, all that. But when I became quite a political activist in the peace movement, and I started writing articles for Peace News and other newsletters, and so it kind of, and I always wrote a diary. I think that's it. Not necessarily every day, but several days a week. And I've done that since I was 15. So there's a lot of juicy stuff there, if you care to look back at it, which I have occasionally.
I've got that in the poetry there. I was writing as 10, and I've got one of the A5 hardback books. And some of the very early stuff is incredibly revealing.
Embarrassing as hell, but also, there's bits in there. So there we go. So, and I've also got an interest in history, so the diaries are really useful because I've actually got a record of the first ever Reading Festival in 1971.
Wow.
And who was, what I thought of them. And
was it printable?
Was it what? Was
it printable, those first acts then? What you thought of?
No, before that. So So the rock histories kind of say that Genesis played, but they didn't. They cancelled. So anyway, there we go. But anyway, so in my 20s, I was doing quite a bit of various bits of writing, and but not in a structured way, although I would have wished that I could. But when I was in my 30s, I went to an Arvon course. And that was amazing. My partner was trying to make her way as a poet at the time, And I wasn't even supposed to be at the course because I was there as her helper because she was disabled. Sue Napolitano, who's kind of known in some circles. But I just found it really inspiring and amazing. And I wrote an amazing story, and I came back and I thought, oh, I'll write a novel out of this, which I didn't, but I carried on writing throughout all that period. And after Sue died in the 90s, I was 40, I joined Northern Gay Writers at Common Word. And I got a real chance there to take stuff, and share it with a group and get feedback from a group. So I would say that's where my writing career really started and kind of took off in a very small way. I had a poem published from there, and then we were all invited to submit to the first Diva book of short stories, and I had a story in that, so that was published in 2000.
Brilliant.
Low burner, but slow but steady, as my Mr. Andrews, my junior school teacher, say.
Some of it's best to do it at a different pace like that. Anyway, I first came aware of you from obviously you're quite good friends with Steve Smythe, who I co-run Speakeasy with, obviously with my wife Amanda. And I know Steve's mentioned you several times to me. I was met you when you were both doing an MA course in Salford, didn't you? Salford Uni. Yeah. You were doing another course before that, weren't you, in history or something in London?
I did, yeah. Because what happened was, when I was young, I always liked history, and I dropped out of the history degree I did started at Manchester University. And I just said, I kind of was quite arrogant, as you are when you're 20. And I said, I'll come back when you do a course on what I called sexual politics. But when they were generally aware of gender and LGBTQ issues, which was just nothing there. So now there's loads. So I dropped out. So I always felt I'd like to know more about history. So I went to about how to do history. So I went to Birkbeck College in London for a year part-time, and did a course in how to do research and how to write history. It was brilliant, actually, so right for me. So that was in 2015, I think. 2015. So, which was the same year that I was 60, believe it or not. So It was kind of really appropriate, because I just thought, me and my partner now, we've got 5 kids, and they're all adults. They're between late 20s, early 30s.
Good. They're off your hands and nothing else now. Then,
they're off our hands. They've become really nice people. But there's a huge knowledge gap there. They don't understand what happened in that period, which was basically my lifetime, after World War up to, say, 9/11, which was such a seminal event. They don't know how the world was shaped up then, how it changed. They might know about the Cold War and the fall of the Berlin Wall, but not really all the significance really in that period. And they certainly don't know how much women struggled and had, got the views of women, public views of women, transformed. So I wanted to tell that story for that generation, because they're now the decision makers for our future.
No, great. Now, God, you've been telling me also before about you. I know I don't know what notes together is now. You called it was auto history. You called it
auto history.
I know it said auto fiction, and I thought, no, that's a different genre altogether. It is.
So what I thought was, well, I need to tell this story, but I need to tell it in an interesting and engaged way. So, and this is linked back to the diary writing. Well, what can I do? I can focus it around basically my life. So take a look at the way the world was shaping up through the lens of my own view of it, if you like. And growing up in Birmingham, I was a little girl in Birmingham, and there were lots of things going on there that impacted on the way I saw the world. And then obviously I was a young person in Manchester, very exciting place to be in the sort of, late teens, early 20s and everything. And I've been here ever since. So, there's a lot.
Yeah, of course. Now, I know, obviously, when you were doing your masters, you won the Leanne Bridgewater Award, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
In 2020. And the piece was an alphabet of eating. Now, tell us about that piece, because I know we've talked about this one off mic, and I think this is a fascinating piece, what you did here.
Yeah. I think I wanted to do an MA in creative writing, and I got rejected by a couple of places and got really downhearted and thought, oh, nobody wants me, and my stuff's no good, the usual stuff. And then I came across the Salford course, and its subtitle is Creative Writing, then subtitled Innovation and Experiment. And I just thought, hey, that's something that's just right for me, because I want to try out all sorts of different things. And I've never settled. I've been a short story writer. I've written, just narrative, straightforward narrative in my work. I've done poetry on the side. I've done all sorts of things. So it was spot on. And so that was the prize. Leanne Bridgewater sadly took her own life. So she
very sad story. Very sad story. And I know we've talked about it before. I met Leanne twice, and the first time she was completely drunk, but she was a very, very. I can imagine her. What I've heard about this piece told me, she would have loved this piece, because she was a very, very restless soul as a creative person. So.
Yeah. So Innovation and Experiment was that was the award kind of thing. It was definitely in her name, but I didn't know that was coming when I did my alphabet of eating. So I just decided this was part of the innovation side. I decided I wanted to try something out. So for 26 days, I ate my way through the alphabet. Each day I could only partake of things foods that started with that day, the letter for that day. So A was really easy, because there was apricots, aubergines, apples.
What was the day? What was the day that was the hardest then?
Probably X.
Yeah. What did you eat with an X then? I'm curious, because I can't think of what you were. Yeah,
I found a recipe for Xavier soup, which is like a broth with some dumplings in it. So I had that about 5 times that day. And it's W after X. Then I had water, whiskey, wine. So it wasn't that healthy a diet in some ways, but it worked. And anyway, so from that, I wrote it. I did a website, I did a blog, I experimented with different forms of writing about it. And then the whole thing had started with a poem. So I ended up putting my poem on a tea towel, and that was my submission to uni, was my poem on a tea towel and the website.
Brilliant. Well done with that. Now, I know you've had some of your pieces translated into another language, and I've struggled with this one already when you told me it was when we spoke about this previously. Was it refresh my memory. Was it
it was Catalan.
Catalan, it was something you see. That's dyslexia kicking in there, yeah. Tell us about that experience, because this sounded pretty interesting as well.
So Catalan is the language of Catalonia, and way back in the 80s, actually, a group of me and my friends, associates, we wrote a short book called Piecing It Together. And we were all involved in the peace movement, and it was about bringing together feminism and non-violence. And it was it was really of the moment, and it was before Green and Common, but not long before. Somehow or other, these peace activists in Catalonia got hold of this book much later, only, I can't remember, a number of years ago, and said, would it be okay with us if they translated it into Catalan? So it obviously had some sort of resonance them. And Catalonia is a region of Spain. Barcelona's at the heart of it, I think. And they are, there's a huge independence movement there. And in fact,
right. Yeah.
So Catalan is the language, a bit like Wales is separate from England. Some people want to be independent, but they've got their own language, so it's sort of similar to that. So yeah,
brilliant. I thought, I mean, you mentioned that last time we spoke, and I thought, could mention, I forgot, typical true to form me, I forgot the road and didn't write down what the country was. So, but I'm one of my favourite pieces of yours, another different note, because it's what I love chatting to you, Joe. Is you've got all sorts of topics going off different directions. I know you had a couple of poems published in a wonderful website called Pies and Poems last year, didn't you? And my favourite one of yours was Queuing at Greg's. Now, I love this one because it's absolutely nothing about Greg's at all, around you telling me. So tell us about that next.
Yeah, so I was cycling up to uni, and it was great doing the course at Salford University, because, as it said, I could do anything, so I did. And I ended up thinking, well, actually, I'm quite a hybrid writer, so I will write as a bit more than as the mood takes me, but it's okay to plan to do all sorts of different writing. So I was cycling up Salford Crescent, and going past a pizza shop. And this smell came out, and it was absolutely overwhelming. It's just like went straight up my nostrils. Ooh. And I just immediately thought of the first line of the poem, which is "What a difference a dough makes." Oh, yeah. And went into uni, locked my bike, went into the library. And out came this poem, which I really enjoyed doing. So although it's called Queuing at Greg's, which sounds better, it was inspired by a pizza shop. So yeah.
I mean, Greg still sounds better, yeah. But I said, well, I remember you mentioned this to me, and I know where that pizza shop was you're on about, because I've done a few gigs over at my last band, actually, over at the Crescent, and that pizza place is deadly. But for creative license, Greg's is totally better with it. So now. If people want to know you, I know you've got a massive interest in cycling as well, haven't you?
Yes.
And there's two things I want to talk to you about this one as well. I know you're a member of Team Glow's Women Road Cycling Network.
Yep.
And you also are involved with Bike Right as well. So, yes, tell us both. I know it's two things at once, but tell us about that then, and where your interest in cycling came from.
Yeah, I've always cycled just to get around, since being a kid. And I've had that many bikes nicked, because I sort of learned my lesson a number of times. But and it's always been a fun thing to do, because you're out in the fresh air, but you're also mobile, and you can get out and around, sort of thing. Go quite a long way. As a woman at night, it's a safer way of getting around than by walking and using public transport. So it's just always been part of my life. And in 2000, my partner and I realized that there was, for our young kids, there wasn't any kind of cycle training or anything like that for them, as they were sort of in primary school. So to cut a long story short, we started up an organisation, got funding from local councils, and started to run these, what used to be called cycling proficiency, but it had fallen into abeyance. So then there was nothing. So Bikeability was sort of launched as a national initiative just around then. So we, delivered that up and down the country, all over Greater Manchester, Merseyside, Newcastle, West Midlands. So from something, and we used our kids, as I said, there's 5 of them. We used them as guinea pigs in the park.
Well,
first.
you've got 5 of them to experiment with. Definitely.
Yeah. So, and the idea of Bikeability, which people might now remember, is that you're taught to cycle on the road to become a traffic user. So it's great. Really, I really felt we were contributing something to society, if you like.
Brilliant.
So as an offshoot, quite a few of our staff were avid cyclists, more avid than I was. But we got into, me and my partner got into road cycling as a side thing. and one of my friends started a women's cycling network, because again, there were very few women road cyclists, and if you joined a club, then it was all men and you couldn't keep up. It's as simple as that. So Team Glow has been really a sort of leisure thing but really important for a lot of us to go out at weekends all cycling together. And actually, one of our members is called Aileen McGlynn, and today she's cycling for Scotland in the Commonwealth Games, and she won a silver medal on Friday. She's one of the para athletes, so she's a tandem rider. So yeah, definitely interested in cycling, and that has entered my writing as well. I have written a number of things.
That's why we have people wondering. That's why, because I know from talking to you, cycling is a big part of your poetry. So that's why. Brilliant.
Yeah, I've written like half a book. It's called Blood, Sweat and Fears.
That's appropriate.
That, you know, I'm still looking for someone to be interested in that, you know, as a proposal. So
yeah, now I think this brings us on nextly to, well, we'll start winding down the chat bit now, so I want to get you to a few pieces in the second half. But I know you've got at least 2 projects on the go at the moment for up and coming events, and well, I'm going to let you talk about first of all. I know you told me before, weren't you? Yeah, I know you wrote a children's novel years ago, didn't you? And touch wood, and I'm not going to name who they are, and I don't think you will be either.
No.
Touch wood, that's going to get picked up by an independent press at the moment as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I wrote this children's novel in 2018, 2019, and it was inspired by a trip that I made to the Outer Hebrides, where I've been a lot of times. So, and the book's called Mission Find Mum. And very briefly, there's 2 children. They live in somewhere like Birmingham. Well, it is Birmingham, really. And their mum goes missing, and they have to set out to find her, and that's where they head for. So it's an adventure story and a mystery, and a number of stuff obviously gets revealed along the way. So I'm working on a rewrite of that at the moment, which I'm very excited about.
Now sorry, Joe, pardon me. So I know you've also got your auto history book still ongoing as well, haven't you? Because I know you were last time we spoke, you were talking about trying to get a draft done for this by the end of the year, weren't you, as well?
Yeah. So my auto history provisional title is Born on the 4th of July. That's my birthday. And it's kind of significant, and I think it kind of places myself in history in quite a neat way, although it's also quite complicating, as I found going along, because it's really the 4th of July was really when you call it the founding fathers. First of all, there's a patriarchal aspect to that, and then there's obviously a racial aspect to it as well, because it was the founding white fathers. So am I celebrating the achievements of white men, or am I trying to transform it? So that's the idea, is that I'm going to transform that concept into a kind of modern context, if you like.
Brilliant, and good luck there, definitely. So now the other thing that I'm aware of you've got coming up, and you might surprise you've got something else as well, is this Chiltern Book Festival in September.
Oh yeah,
and I know obviously you're involved to take up a workshop in there at the moment, aren't you? I seem to recall last time I heard.
Yeah. So Chiltern Book Festival is in September, the 17th to the 24th of September, all around Chiltern, and I'm going to I coordinate or run a writers' cafe there from the Wednesday to the Sunday. So each day there'll be an hour and a half workshop for people to attend, to come along, to book in. And it's a cafe setup, and the main purpose is for people to write. because writing is such an isolated thing that we we just need that camaraderie as well, and that sort of somewhere to go, to actually do our writing. So I've got a visiting author coming each day. I've got Jackie Kate, Rosie Garland, Martin Griffin, and a publisher from Zuntold Books. So each day they're going to come along to encourage people. So, but it's a real ordinary people sort of thing. Come along, bring your work in progress or a blank notebook. It doesn't really matter. So, and I think from that we will continue to have a weekly writers' cafe, and it's going to be at the Edge Art Centre in Chorlton. So they're absolutely delighted to be hosting it.
Brilliant. Well, good luck with it, Jo, definitely. Now, if people want to find out more about you, obviously I'm aware of two places, and we've got your website, haven't we?
Yeah.
josomersetwriter.wordpress.com. And I seem to recall, are you still active on Twitter as well?
Yeah, I am. Things? So at Jos Somerset on Twitter. And I'm very sporadic on Twitter. So I think I said last time we talked, I only put writing stuff on if I'm a success, when I put on successes. But I've started engaging a bit more with the writing community now on Twitter. So I feel that's a good place to be, part of a whole network.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, good luck, Jo, definitely with it. So both books and also your workshop as well. So right, well, that's it for part one anyway. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. Jo's got a couple of pieces lined up for us. I'll see you all in a minute. Thanks again, Jo.
Thank you.
Spoken Label.
Hi, guys. Andy N, Spoken Label, the wonderful Jos Somerset. Straight over to Jo now. She's going to do a few pieces for us. Over to you, Jo.
Hi again. Well, Andy, you mentioned first of all my queuing for Greg's poem that was produced in the Pies and Poems website. So I thought I'd start off with that. It's actually got another title, Love Rising. So I kind of, can't quite decide which is the best one. But here we are. What a difference a doe makes. Kneading her as if they'd never had that scorching row, hoping she'll rise and rise again after the next punching down, this time playful. Grabbing by the handful, her giving way to plunging fingers sinking stickily, and being shaped and rolled and tucked into lightly greased pans, eased in by loving hands, and oh, so delicately rising once more. Some call it proving. Before the heat turned up, a gaze at her perfect dome and sliding her in to bake. What a difference a dough makes.
Wonderful stuff. I think it's absolutely superb, that, definitely so. And what I love about your work, Jo, is also is the way, and this is a great example of it, but there's not a word out of place, and you can see that you've put a lot, even though I know you said the first time you wrote this reasonably quickly, it feels like to me that there's not a word out of place there. So that one's all tremendous stuff.
Right. And I what I enjoy about it is the unspoken stuff. So there's kind of, in my imagination, there's a bit of a darkness behind it that we're not quite sure whether this is fun or, only one person's idea of fun. So
yeah, no, I agree. I think great work sometimes encourages the actual reader to work on the piece. It's not a piece as immediate, and that's what I like about that piece as well. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Should we go for piece number 2 then? Shall we?
Okay. This is I've written an article for the journal Writing in Practice. It's coming out, I don't know, quite soon, I think. It's about Born on the 4th of July, my auto history. But the title of the article is Prelude, Preamble, Precursor, Premonition. So apart from the fact that I like alliteration, really it's a reflection on my practice and on the writing process. And within that, I've taken extracts from my actual work in progress to show my kind of thinking about history and how to express it. So the first piece is a kind of prose poem that I wrote because I was thinking about history and how to express it, and the fact that history is only a point of view, and usually it's the point of view of the oppressor, actually, the one who survives. So this is the first bit, and it's called, well, I'll just start it because the first line is the same thing. I would like to revisit the notion that men make their own history. Even though some women, like Ban Zhao, squeezed their noses in, and others, like Sappho, wrote history in poetry. But because Herodotus, a poet, wrote about wars, and Sappho portrayed society, love, he was called a historian, and she wasn't. So there's my starting point. It's like, come on, let's get these voices in there to contradict all that crap from previous millennia onwards.
Really powerful, that. Yeah, it's made me think in a way, a different way straight away, that, Joe. So, but anyway, it's been tremendous today. It's been great to catch up. So I've really, really enjoyed the session today. I want to thank you for today, for this, Joe, and thanks for your patience as well. Because people won't necessarily know we've tried doing this podcast before and we hit a few hiccups on it. But yeah, I'm glad we got a chance to catch up today. So thank you again for it today. So hang around because obviously we've got more to sort out behind the scenes. But it's been a pleasure today, Joe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Right, guys and girls, that's the end of Spoken Label for today. Now, Al's Don Callis Impact Wrestling says, stay safe and stay over. And we'll see you all next time.
Spoken Label.